is the highest paid guy in our government getting all kinds of money to tell us things that were not accurate. Because we now know U.S. tax dollars went to a lab in China, a lab that was not up to code, a lab that was doing gain-of-function research, and that's where this thing most definitely came from. And Dr. Fauci had to prove, no, he can't have that news getting out. And that's why he did what he did, to the exclusion of a brilliant guy running our CDC, kept him out of the loop.
Hello, fellow patriots. I am the Red Deplorable, and I'd like to thank you for coming back to my channel. Today we are going to be watching a video of Jim Jordan grilling some people over the entire COVID scandal, over everything. And let me just start by saying Jim Jordan is absolutely one of my favorite politicians in the game right now. So without further ado, let's get to you.
Dr. Redfield, you ran the CDC and you were on the coronavirus task force, is that right?
Correct.
That was formed on January 29th, 2020, is that right?
Correct.
2 days later, Dr. Fauci gets an email from Dr. Anderson which says what? Virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory. Is that accurate?
Ooh.
That's my understanding.
Ooh, straightforward on that. Like, right quick on that. I don't know about you guys, but we're all conspiracy theorists here, right? Do we remember being called conspiracy theorists for years now? Because I damn for certain remember saying that I had heard through the grapevine that, you know, it looked like a manufactured disease. It looked man-made. So I guess we're about to find out if it's true. I mean, we all know it's true, but, you know, there's the ones that don't want to believe.
Next day, I know, did he share that email with you, by the way, Dr. Redfield?
No.
As a member of the task force, as the head of CDC, did he share that email with you?
No.
Okay, next day, February 1st, Dr. Gary sends Dr. Fauci another email. That email says, I don't know how this happens in nature, but it would be easy to do in a lab. Did he share that email with you, Dr. Redfield?
No.
You didn't see either one of those emails, even though you're head of CDC, even though you're on the coronavirus task force that had been formed just 3 days earlier.
No.
3 days later,
Bullshit.
Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gary.
Bullshit. There's no way in hell that these people who are a part of this whole scenario are not getting these emails. And if they're not, there's got to be some other weird shit going on, some kind of legal process going on with that, because that doesn't make sense. How are you going to take these people who are supposed to be head of these departments and not share this information with them? Jim Jordan, you are doing God's work.
Who told us it came from a lab in emails to Dr. Fauci that Dr. Fauci wouldn't let Dr. Redfield see. 3 days later, they changed their position 180 degrees. The question is why? Mr.
Money.
Wade, why would they change their position?
Money. I got one word for it. Money. Oh, I bet you China came to them with the fattest. Oh, sorry. It is in my opinion that I believe that China offered them $5 million, much like Biden got.
That fast, when the only intervening event is a conference call with Dr. Fauci, the guy who wouldn't let Dr. Redfield see the very emails that they had sent him. Dr. Redfield, head of CDC on the coronavirus task force. Why would they change their position, Dr. Wade, or Mr. Wade?
Well, this question does lie at the heart of the issue. What is pertinent, it seems to me, is there's no new scientific evidence that we can see that came available between these dates, the Jan 31st and Feb 4.
Right, there's no new, I think you're, go ahead.
So you have to ask if there were other kinds of influence available. Now, it is true that Dr. Fauci and Dr. Farry in London were very powerful research officials, and between them they...
I read your testimony, I saw that. Yeah.
So...
Why don't you cut to the chase and tell them what you really think was the reason?
I don't know what the reason was.
I know what it was.
Go
No, go ahead. I'll let you
Jim's
say it
on
because I
top
read
of
your
that.
testimony. I think you said it in your
Ooh.
testimony too. Maybe you're reluctant to
Ooh, I think Jim's playing
say
it.
it here, but go ahead.
Well, if you're looking at the
I think Jim's playing it really well right now, actually. It's very smart of him to allow that person to talk. Because I see it too often where Republicans, they start grilling, and they're on a good point. They're doing well. But they do not allow the person to dig themselves into a deeper hole. And that's what Jim Jordan's about to do. He's going to let him talk and hopefully dig himself into a deeper hole. The person will eventually start to give their shit away. Just let them do it. Give them the opportunity to.
timeline on May 21st, just a few weeks after the Nature Medicine article had come out, two of the signatories of the original email to Dr. Fauci, that's Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gary, were awarded a $9 million grant for the...
So there's 9 million reasons why they changed their mind. I knew you'd get to it. I read that last night. 3 months after, so 3 days after they say it came from a lab, they changed their position, and the only intervening event's a conference call with Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins. Again, a call that Mr. Redfield was not allowed to be on.
I may be a bit of a conspiracy theorist. And I'll be the first to tell you straight up I'm a conspiracy theorist. Not QAnon status, but I get into some stuff. But if somebody openly admits to $9 million, you can almost guarantee it's probably double that shit. You can almost guarantee they're making more than just that. If they're admitting to $9 million, there's definitely more.
The head of CDC and on the coronavirus task force, and then 3 months later, shazam, they get $9 million from Dr. Fauci. Well, isn't that something? Isn't that something? That's why we want to talk to these guys. That's why Chairman Winstrup wants to bring in Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gary and ask them a series of questions so we can get to the bottom of this, so we can move forward and deal with this. Now, here's the key question. Look, I'm just a common sense guy from Ohio. I majored in wrestling in college, but I got a degree in economics. You're supposed to get a degree when you go to college. I got one in economics. And one of the things they tell you about is a thing called opportunity cost. So when you're spending your time making sure that the country believes only one of these theories, you could have been doing what Dr. Redfield was doing in our government, trying to figure out how we deal with this virus. And what was Dr. Fauci doing? He was trying to cover his backside, and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
And that's a part that ticks us off, because this is the highest paid guy in our government, getting all kinds of money.
This entire thing was a cover-up. Late night calls, trying to get all of mainstream media on his side. It was all just the biggest cover-up to hide the gain-of-function research that was happening in the Wuhan lab, which is a known fact. The FBI has already admitted the Wuhan lab leak theory is the most likely scenario. The thing we've been called crazy for and xenophobic for the last however many years, it's already been proven to be correct. So Fauci this entire time, I'm sure, has been doing experimental things out in China, testing on things that he should not be doing, but if they changed the name, so it's not gain of function, but it's the same shit. They're out there doing it, funded by taxpayer dollars, mind you. I'm almost positive he's getting kickback from China too. So there's so much corruption in this. I imagine it is deeper than we even know.
To tell us things that were not accurate, because we now know U.S. tax dollars went to a lab in China, a lab that was not up to code, a lab that was doing gain-of-function research, and that's where this thing most definitely came from. And Dr. Fauci had to prove, no, he can't have that news getting out.
You are my
and that's
hero.
why he did what he did, to the exclusion of a brilliant guy running our CDC, kept him out of the loop. Keeping him out
I
of the
would
loop probably
absolutely love to meet
potentially
you,
could
Jim
have
Jordan.
harmed America.
One of the first people
That's
I'd
the
love
thing
to
that
meet.
ticks us all off. And that's
You're
why,
one of my
Mr. Chairman,
idols.
this hearing is so darn important, and we get to the bottom of really what happened. I yield back.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to make a closing.
Wow. All right.
As COVID-19 began to
All
spread
right,
across the
next
world, there were two competing hypotheses about the origin of this virus that needed to be vigorously explored. The first hypothesis is the possibility that COVID-19 infections in humans were the result of a spillover event from nature. This is a situation in which the virus naturally mutates and becomes more transmissible from one species to another, in this
Okay.
case from...
Okay. So you're saying the narrative that they ran with. You're talking about the narrative that they ran with. Yeah, the one that covers Fauci's ass. You know, even though there were people that said on record that they don't understand how that could happen in real life, but it could be easily done in a lab. Okay, that one. Yeah, that one. All right.
bats to humans via an intermediate species.
Uh-huh.
This is what happened in previous outbreaks of SARS and MERS and earlier coronaviruses that emerged
But
from
not in
bats and
this one.
spread through an intermediate animal.
Not in this one.
The second hypothesis is the possibility that the virus evolved in a laboratory involved in gain-of-function research. This is a type of research
Might be
in which
onto something.
scientists seek to increase the transmissibility or pathogenicity of an organism in order to better understand that organism and inform preparedness efforts and the development of countermeasures such as therapeutics and vaccines. Under this theory, COVID infected the general population after it was accidentally leaked from a lab in China. From the earliest days of the pandemic, my view was both theories about the origin needed to be aggressively and thoroughly examined. Based on my initial
Okay.
analysis of the data, I came
Okay, I don't know this man in particular. But all I'm gonna say is if you make a statement like that he needed to thoroughly research both theories. Why was the other theory pushed so much harder? All over mainstream media. The president was saying it. The current president is still denying it comes from China. All of the news outlets are saying this. If you've got to treat them fairly and you've got to decide which one it is, why were they all so against saying it came from China? That it came from a lab leak.
to believe, and I still believe today, that it indicates that COVID-19 more likely was the result of an accidental lab leak than a result of a natural spillover event. This conclusion is based primarily on the biology of the virus itself, including the rapid high infectivity for human-to-human transmission, which would then predict rapid evolution of new variants, as well as a number of other important factors, which also include the unusual actions in and around Wuhan in the fall of 2019, all of which I'm happy to discuss today. Even given the information that surfaced in the 3 years since the COVID-19 pandemic began, some have contended that there's really no point in investigating the origin of this virus. I strongly disagree. There is a global need to know what we are dealing with in COVID virus because it affects how we approach the problem to try to prevent the next pandemic. The understanding of the
You know what I'm gonna say? I think I came into this interview with a preconceived notion that this guy was going to be on the same boat as the rest of them, but he seems to be pretty red-pilled right now. I like where he's going. Let's hear him out.
origin of COVID is critical to future science research, particularly as it affects ongoing ethical debate around gain-of-function research. Gain-of-function research has long been controversial within the scientific community. In my own opinion, COVID-19 pandemic presents a case study on the potential dangers of such research. While many believe that gain-of-function research is critical to get ahead of viruses by developing vaccines, in this case, I believe it was the exact opposite, unleashing a new virus to the world without any means of stopping it and resulting in the deaths of millions of people. Because of this, it's my opinion that we should call for a moratorium on gain-of-function research until we have a broader debate and we come to a consensus at a community about the value of gain-of-function research.
That gain of function
This
was
debate
illegal.
should not be limited to the scientific community. If the decision is to continue with gain-of-function research, then it must be determined how and where to conduct that research in a safe, responsible, and
I thought it
effective
was
way.
illegal.
I thank you for inviting me here today. As we explore this important topic, I look forward to answering your questions.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed walking through the video with me. Obviously, I think I might have misunderstood him at first, but I apologize for that. I caught on. If you guys would like to find me anywhere, just look up the Red Deplorable, and hopefully I've got every platform.